Make sure everybody is with me, and we are ready to rock and roll. Ready to rock and roll, son. Ready to rock and roll. Okay. Here we go.
Repeat after me. If you want to be great and successful,
you must
walk hand in hand. Side by side. With great and successful people. All right, have a seat. All I did in my life is attempt to try to find out what makes the great great. That's all I ever did. When I left Northwestern University in 1984 with a PhD in hand, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I certainly knew what I didn't want to do. I did not want to teach. I wanted to go into corporate America. I didn't want to go to the foreign service like many of my colleagues. I guess sort of subconsciously I wanted to find out the keys to success. So I carved out a list initially of 3 people that I was going to meet and interview, and notice at point blank, success. That list of 40 swelled to almost 100. And all I wanted to do was find out what makes the great. Some of the things. When I asked Don King what makes the great great, Don King says if you overfill your place, people will come see you. If you set yourself on fire, the world will come see you burn. What makes the great great? When I interviewed Mae Jemison, the first black woman in space, I said, Dr. Jemison, what is success? She said, success. What makes the great great? When I interviewed Ben Carson, arguably black America's #1 neurosurgeon, Dr. Carson said to me, he said, think big, think stretch, think global, think fun. Think. That is the key. What makes the great great? Young man, if you have but one wish, let it be for a dream. What makes the great great? Henry Parks of Park Sausage said to me, he said, young man, in one hand I have a dream, in the other hand I have an obstacle. Which one grabs your attention? What makes the great great? The few moments that I had with Reverend Ike, he said to me, he says, I know the key to greatness. I said, Reverend Ike, what is it? He said, mind your own business. I said, Reverend Ike, boy, I'm that fine here again. I said, yeah. He said, mind your own business. Bob Johnson of BET said to me, I said, Mr. Johnson, what is success? What is greatness? He said, life is a grindstone. Whether it grinds you down or polishes you up depends on what you are made of. I asked Louis Farrakhan, I said, Mr. Farrakhan, what is wealth? He said, poor is the man who all he has is money. What makes the great great? Then I came full circle to Jesse Jackson. Jesse Jackson says you may not be responsible for getting knocked down, but you're certainly responsible for getting back up. What makes the great great? Well, as short as a sense of destiny, as Peter Daniels say. It is a sense of destiny. Everybody has a sense of destiny by following 5 keys. Number 1, focus on that which you desire most. Number 2, emulate something that you develop a gratitude attitude. Give thanks for the things that you do have. Don't worry about the things that you don't. Number 4, recognize that strength grows out of struggle. And last but not least, dedicate yourself to lifelong learning. Readers are leaders. The average black man in America spends more than $500 on the outside of his head. Haircuts, shaves, dental work, but spends less than $50 a year on his head. And I applaud everyone here today. this society that I tell people do not become a know-it-all. Have preconceived notions. It's like the story of 3 men who are about to be executioned. Each one of them were granted one last word to say before they are about to be guillotined to death. The first one to approach the chopping block is a doctor. The doctor puts his neck on the chopping block, and the executioner says, "Doctor, do you have any last words?" The doctor says, "Yes. Physician, heal thyself." Right then the guillotine blade comes down and stops 2 inches from the doctor's neck. Everybody out in the audience says, "Surely this is a sign from above. This man is innocent. Let him go free." The next one to approach the chopping block was a priest. The executioner says to the priest, he says, "Father, do you have any last words?" And the priest says, "Yes. Keep the faith." Right then the guillotine blade came down and stopped 1 inch from the priest's neck. Everybody out in the crowd says, "Surely this man is innocent. Let him go free." The last person to approach the chopping block was a know-it-all. And the executioner says, "Sir, do you have any last words?" And the know-it-all says, "Yes. If you tighten the 2 bolts on the left, the guillotine will work as planned." Don't be a know-it-all. The information is there. The material is there. Focus on your God-given talents. Use this billion-dollar brain, this mind that you have, and use it for your own personal good. You see, the Bible says the first shall be last and the last shall be first. We in the black community have been trained to believe. You go to any pastor and say, "Pastor, what does that mean? The first shall be last and the last shall be first?" Well, the pastor will say, "Well, that's living proof that black America will one day be first. All these years we've been last, but one day, if you read it right here in the Bible, we shall be first." Well, it doesn't mean that. The first shall be last and the last shall be first doesn't mean that at all. It's consciousness that says, "I will not believe it till I see it." In other words, now become last, and the minimum which is last will now become first. You see with your mind's eye. You get a dream, a vision, something that you want to do, and you see with your mind's eye because your physical eye will lie to you. I interviewed scores of achievers. You name it. I spent a day with Al Sharpton. I spent a day with Don King, Susan Taylor, Business Magazine, Mae Jemison, Percy Sutton, you name it, and I had the pleasure to talk to that individual, and I found 4 common cores no matter who I interviewed. Number 1, they dreamed big dreams. They had a dream, a plan, a vision, something they wanted to accomplish so desperately with their life. Number 2, they were inner directed versus outer directed. In other words, they didn't live life at the circumference, they lived life at the center. And they weren't so quick to believe well-meaning friends or family who said, "You can't do this or you can't do that." See, that's what Robert Frost meant in his poem, "Two roads diverged in the wood, and I took the one less traveled by." You are unique. You cannot succeed being like everybody else. You must take that lonely road. And that's why I have in my book that the opposite of success is not failure. The opposite of success is conformity. So many times we conform to the wishes, the norms, and the mores of others. Number 3, these individuals flat out refuse to be average. They commit themselves to personal excellence. Now again, you can be, have, or do what you want in this society, but I tell people, don't be average. See, average is worse of the best, it's best of the worst. It's top of the bottom of the top. Society remembers the achiever. Society will even remember the man or woman who fell short of the mark, but nobody remembers the man or woman who is average. When you die, to put on your tombstone, here lies somebody.
That was part 1 of Dennis Kimbrough giving us some nuggets and information. Great information. I'm going to play part 2 coming up. Part 2 will be approaching us really soon.